The package felt heavier than it should have, like a mistake wrapped in red ribbon. Michelle Micheal knocked twice before the door swung open, revealing a man whose cold eyes pinned her in place like a blade to her throat. Behind him, men in black suits turned in perfect unison, hands drifting toward concealed weapons, and she realized with bone-deep terror that she'd just walked into the lion's den. Except the lion was staring at her swollen belly with an expression that looked dangerously close to possession. One wrong word and she'd never leave this mansion alive, but when his gaze dragged back to her face, something darker than death flickered in his eyes, something that whispered she was already his. Welcome to Afro-Korean Films, besties. Please like, share and subscribe. Jang Tae-San had killed 3 men that morning, but the woman standing in his doorway made him forget about the bodies cooling in his basement. She was beautiful in a way that felt dangerous. Curves that defied the heavy winter coat, dark skin glowing against the falling snow, and eyes wide with the kind of fear that made his protective instincts roar to life. Her hand rested protectively over her swollen stomach, and something primal twisted in his chest. "I'm so sorry," she stammered, her breath misting in the cold air. "I think I have the wrong address. This package is supposed to go to—" "Come inside." His voice came out rougher than he intended, and he saw her flinch. Behind him, his second-in-command, Yu Jun-seo, stepped forward with his hand on his weapon. But Tae-san raised one finger. The room went silent. Michelle's survival instincts screamed at her to run, but her feet were frozen to the marble step. The man blocking the doorway was tall, broad-shouldered with sharp features that belonged on magazine covers, if magazines featured men who looked like they bathed in violence. His tailored black suit probably cost more than her car, and the way he looked at her made her feel stripped bare. "It's Christmas Eve," she said weakly, holding up the package like a shield. "I'm just doing deliveries. Please, I'll just take this to the right address and—" "You're pregnant." It wasn't a question. His eyes dropped to her belly again, and this time the look was so intense she felt heat crawl up her neck. "How far along?" That's none of your business." Fear made her brave, or maybe just stupid. "Look, I'm sorry for disturbing you, but I really need to—" Tae-san moved faster than she could process, his hand closing around her wrist. Not hard, but firm enough that she couldn't pull away. His skin was warm despite the winter cold, and the touch sent electricity racing up her arm. "It's 18 degrees outside. You're shaking. Come inside before you catch pneumonia." The next moment, she was being pulled into a mansion that looked like it belonged in a crime drama. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, and men in suits everywhere, all of them watching her like she was either prey or a problem to be solved. The door clicked shut behind her and Michelle's heart hammered against her ribs. "Boss," Jun-seo said carefully, his hand still hovering near his jacket. "Should we leave us?" Tae-san's voice was quiet, but every man in the room moved instantly, filing out through various doors until only the 2 of them remained in the massive foyer. He finally released her wrist and Michelle stumbled back a step, clutching the package to her chest. "What is this place?" she whispered. "Somewhere you were never supposed to find." He studied her face like he was memorizing it, his expression unreadable. "Who sent you here?" "Nobody sent me. It's just a delivery app. Some guy ordered a Christmas gift, paid extra for same-day delivery, and the address led me here." She fumbled with her phone, hands shaking as she pulled up the order. "See? Unit 47, Hanamdong. That's this address, right?" Tae-san took the phone from her hands, his fingers brushing hers, and she watched his jaw tighten as he read the screen. "This is a setup." "A setup? What are you talking about?" "Someone sent you here deliberately." His eyes lifted to hers and she saw something deadly swimming in their depths. "Someone who wanted to see what I would do when a beautiful pregnant woman showed up on my doorstep." That evening, Michelle found herself sitting in the most luxurious living room she'd ever seen. A cup of hot tea warming her hands while Jang Tae-san made phone calls in rapid Korean across the room. She should have left an hour ago, But he'd insisted she stay until his men verified the delivery order wasn't a threat. Now she was trapped in a mansion with a man who radiated danger like cologne. The order was placed from a burner phone, he said finally, ending his call and turning to face her. Paid in cryptocurrency, untraceable. So someone played a prank? Michelle tried to keep her voice steady. Can I go now? My shift ends in an hour. And I have other deliveries. You're not making any more deliveries tonight. He moved closer and she fought the urge to shrink back into the leather couch. Someone knows where I live. Someone sent you here as a message. And until I know who and why, you're not safe out there. I'm not safe in here either. The words burst out before she could stop them. You have armed guards. There's blood on your shoes. I'm not an idiot. I know what this is. Tae-san glanced down at his Italian leather shoes, noticing the dark spots for the first time. Something almost like amusement flickered across his face. You're observant. I'm terrified. Good. Fear keeps people alive. He crouched in front of her, bringing them eye level, and Michelle's breath caught. Up close, he was devastatingly beautiful in a cruel, sharp way, like a blade forged in ice. But you don't need to fear me. I won't hurt you. Why should I believe you? Because if I wanted to hurt you, you'd already be hurt. His gaze dropped to her belly again, lingering with that same strange intensity. Who's the father? Excuse me. The baby's father. Where is he? Michelle's throat tightened. Gone. He left when I told him I was pregnant. Something dark and possessive flashed in Tae-san's eyes. Fool. Later that night, Tae-san sat in his office staring at the background check his tech team had pulled up on Michelle Micheal. 26 years old, working 3 jobs to make ends meet, 6 months pregnant, no family in Seoul. She'd moved to Korea 2 years ago for a teaching position that fell through, and now she was barely surviving in one of the most expensive cities in the world. She was everything he wasn't. Soft where he was hard, warm where he was cold, innocent where he was stained with blood. And yet, from the moment she'd appeared on his doorstep with snowflakes melting in her hair, something had shifted in his chest, something that felt dangerously close to obsession. You're keeping her here? Junseo asked from the doorway, his expression carefully neutral. Until we identify the threat. And then? Tae-san didn't answer. He couldn't, because the truth was he didn't want to let her go. Not now. Maybe not ever. The following morning, Michelle woke up in a guest bedroom that was larger than her entire apartment. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, and for a moment she forgot where she was. Then the memories crashed back. The wrong address, the dangerous man, the mansion full of armed guards. She needed to leave. Now. But when she opened the bedroom door, 2 men in black suits stood in the hallway like sentries. They didn't speak, didn't move, just watched her with expressions that made it clear she wasn't going anywhere. Let me guess, she said, crossing her arms over her stomach. I'm a prisoner now. You're a guest, one of them replied in accented English. Boss says you stay until it's safe. Safe from what? I delivered a package to the wrong house, that's it. There's no conspiracy, no threat, just a GPS error and a very paranoid crime lord. The guard's lips twitched, almost smiling. Boss is in the dining room. He's waiting for you. By the end of the week, Michelle had given up trying to escape. Every exit was guarded, every window locked, and Jang Tae-San seemed to anticipate her every move. But the strangest part wasn't the captivity. It was the way he treated her. He had breakfast waiting for her every morning, always including foods she'd mentioned craving. He'd converted one of the guest rooms into a nursery, complete with a crib, changing table, and more baby supplies than she could use in a year. And every night, he appeared at her door to check on her, his dark eyes sweeping over her like he was searching for injuries. Why are you doing this? She asked one evening, finding him in the library where she'd taken to spending her afternoons. He looked up from a stack of papers, his expression unreadable. Doing what? All of this. The nursery, the food, the constant hovering. I'm nothing to you, just a delivery driver who knocked on the wrong door. Tae-san set down his pen, his full attention zeroing in on her. You think you're nothing to me? The intensity in his voice made her stomach flip. I don't understand what I am to you. He stood, moving around the desk with that predatory grace that always made her pulse spike. You walked into my life carrying life inside you. You looked at me with fear but didn't run. You're brave, beautiful, and alone in a foreign country with no one to protect you. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could feel his body heat. You're not nothing, Michelle. You're everything I didn't know I needed. A few days later, everything changed. Michelle was reading in the library when raised voices echoed from Tae-san's office. She shouldn't have eavesdropped, but curiosity won out, and she crept closer to the partially open door. The Park family knows about her, Junseo was saying urgently. They're asking questions, making moves, if they think she's important to you. Let them think it, Tae-san interrupted coldly. Anyone who touches her dies. Boss, you can't start a war over a woman you've known for a week. I can, and I will. The absolute certainty in his voice made Michelle's breath catch. She's mine now. They touch her, they answer to me. Michelle fled back to the library, her mind racing. She was a liability, a weakness that could get him killed, or worse, start a gang war. She had to leave, had to get away before her presence here cost lives. That evening, she made her move. She waited until the guard rotation changed, slipped out through the kitchen entrance she'd been watching for days, and ran into the freezing Seoul night wearing nothing but the clothes Tae-san had bought her. She made it 3 blocks before a black car screeched to a halt in front of her. The back door flew open and Jang Tae-san stepped out, his expression thunderous. Get in the car. His voice was deadly quiet. No, I'm leaving. I heard what you said. I'm causing problems for you and I won't be responsible for people dying because... Get in the car. He moved closer and she saw something wild in his eyes. Something that looked like fear mixed with fury. Do you have any idea what could have happened to you out here? The Park family has eyes everywhere. If they'd found you first, then maybe you should have let me go a week ago. Tears burned her eyes and she hated herself for crying. I don't belong in your world. I'm just a pregnant delivery driver who made a wrong turn, and now you're talking about wars and killing people over me. This is insane. Tae-san closed the distance between them in 2 strides, his hands coming up to cup her face. You think I chose this? You think I wanted to feel this way? His thumbs brushed away her tears, and his touch was so gentle it broke something inside her. From the moment I saw you, something in me recognized something in you. Like you were always meant to walk through that door, like I'd been waiting for you without knowing it. That's not real, she whispered, but her hands were gripping his wrists, holding him to her. Then why does it feel like I can't breathe when you're not near me? Why do I check on you every night just to make sure you're safe? Why does the thought of you leaving feel like someone's ripping out my heart? His forehead dropped to hers and she felt him shaking. I know this is fast. I know it's insane, but I can't let you go. The next morning, Michelle woke up back in her guest room with Tae-san asleep in a chair beside her bed. His usually perfect hair was mussed, his tie loosened, and even in sleep he looked like he was standing guard. Something warm and dangerous bloomed in her chest. She was falling for a monster, and the terrifying part was she didn't want to stop. By the following week, the tension between them had become unbearable. Every accidental touch felt electric. Every shared glance lasted too long. Tae-san watched her like he was starving, and Michelle found herself seeking him out, craving his presence even when her mind screamed it was wrong. I have a business dinner tonight, he told her one afternoon, appearing in the library doorway. I want you to come with me. As what? Your prisoner? Your charity case? As mine. The possessiveness in his voice sent heat racing through her veins. I want everyone to see that you're under my protection. That'll just make me more of a target. It'll make you untouchable. He moved closer, and she rose from her chair to face him. In my world, Michelle, the only thing more dangerous than being my enemy is being important to me. And you, his hand lifted to tuck a curl behind her ear, you're becoming dangerously important. That evening, Michelle wore a dress Tae-San had sent to her room, deep emerald green that hugged her curves and somehow made her pregnancy look regal rather than awkward. When she descended the stairs, she found him waiting in the foyer, wearing a black suit that should have been illegal. The look he gave her was pure hunger. "You're stunning," he said, offering his arm. "Every man in that room is going to want you, and they're all going to know you're mine." The dinner was held at an exclusive restaurant that Tae-San apparently owned. The moment they walked in, conversations stopped. Eyes tracked them across the room, whispers following in their wake. Tae-San's hand settled possessively on the small of her back, and Michelle felt branded by his touch. Later that night, as they sat in a private dining room surrounded by dangerous men and their elegant companions, a woman approached their table. She was beautiful, tall, Korean, with perfect makeup and a designer dress. And the way she looked at Tae-San made Michelle's stomach twist. "Tae-San oppa," the woman purred, completely ignoring Michelle. "It's been too long. I've missed you." Tae-San's expression didn't change. "Hana, won't you introduce me to your friend?" Hana's eyes swept over Michelle with barely concealed disdain, lingering on her pregnant belly. "No." Tae-San's voice was cold enough to freeze blood. "Leave." "But we were supposed to—" "I said leave." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "You mean nothing to me. You never did. Don't make me repeat myself." Hana's face flushed with humiliation, but she turned and fled. Around them, conversations carefully resumed, and Tae-San's hand found Michelle's under the table, threading their fingers together. "Old girlfriend?" she asked quietly. "Business arrangement. It's over." His thumb stroked across her knuckles. "There's only one woman I want, and she's carrying a child that I'm going to raise as my own." Michelle's breath caught. "Tae-San." "I mean it." His dark eyes burned into hers. "That baby deserves a father. You deserve someone who will worship you, protect you, give you everything you've ever wanted. Let me be that person." The following morning, Michelle woke to chaos. Shouting echoed through the mansion, and when she stumbled into the hallway, guards were running past with weapons drawn. Her heart stopped. "What's happening?" She grabbed one guard's arm, but he pulled away without answering. Terror clawed up her throat as she hurried toward Tae-San's office, her pregnant belly making her clumsy. She found him surrounded by his men, all of them armed, fury written across every face. Blood stained Tae-San's knuckles. "The Park family hit one of our warehouses," Junseo was saying. 5 men dead, millions in product destroyed. This is a declaration of war. "Then we answer." Tae-San's voice was death itself. "I want—" He stopped mid-sentence, his eyes landing on Michelle in the doorway. In 2 strides he was there, his hands on her shoulders. "What are you doing out of your room?" "I told the guards." "I heard shouting. I was scared." She searched his face, seeing the violence swimming beneath his controlled expression. "What's happening?" "Nothing you need to worry about." He started to guide her back toward the hallway, but she planted her feet. "Don't lie to me, not now." Tae-San's jaw clenched. "There's going to be a fight, a bad one, and I need to know you're safe while I handle it." "By handle it, you mean kill people?" "Yes." He didn't even try to soften it. "These men attacked what's mine. They need to understand the consequences." "And what if they come after me to get to you?" The question hung in the air between them. "I'm your weakness now, aren't I?" Something fierce and protective blazed in his eyes. "You're my strength, and anyone stupid enough to touch you will wish they'd never been born." That evening, Tae-San came to her room. She was sitting by the window watching snow fall over Seoul when she heard the door open. He looked exhausted, his shirt unbuttoned at the collar, his hair disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it. "Is it over?" she asked. "For tonight?" He moved to stand beside her, his reflection joining hers in the window. "I've doubled security. You'll have guards with you everywhere, even inside the mansion. I'm tired of being afraid." The words came out barely above a whisper. "I'm tired of feeling like a burden." "You're not. I am." She turned to face him, and the emotion in her chest felt too big to contain. "You should let me go. Find me an apartment somewhere far from here. Send me back to the States. Just let me disappear before this gets worse." "No." The word was absolute. "Tae-san." "I said no." He cupped her face in his hands, his touch desperate. "Do you think I could just let you walk away? Do you think I could go back to my life before you, knowing you're out there somewhere unprotected and alone?" His forehead pressed to hers. "I'm already in too deep, Michelle. I'm already lost." "This is crazy," she breathed, but her hands were fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. "I know." His lips brushed her temple, her cheekbone, the corner of her mouth. "Tell me to stop." She couldn't. God help her, she couldn't. When their lips finally met, it felt like the world caught fire. Tae-san kissed her like he was drowning and she was air, desperate, consuming, reverent. His hands slid into her hair while hers clutched his shoulders, and somewhere in the back of her mind, Michelle knew this was the point of no return. Everything after this moment would be different. He pulled back just enough to look at her, his pupils blown wide, breathing ragged. "Tell me you want this. Tell me you want me." "I'm terrified of wanting you," she whispered. "But I do. God help me, I do." That night, Tae-san carried her to his bedroom, a space she'd never been allowed to enter. The room was massive, decorated in dark woods and deep greys, masculine and commanding like him. He set her down gently on the bed, his touch careful despite the hunger in his eyes. "I've never done this before," she admitted, her cheeks flushing. "Not while pregnant. I don't know if... We'll figure it out together." His fingers traced the curve of her jaw, down her neck, across her collarbone. "I'll take care of you. I promise." What happened next was a blur of whispered words and gentle touches, of Tae-san worshipping her body like she was something sacred, of pleasure building slow and devastating until she shattered in his arms. He held her through it, murmuring words in Korean she didn't understand, but felt in her soul. And when they finally came together, it felt like two broken pieces becoming whole. The next morning, Michelle woke alone in Tae-san's massive bed, sunlight streaming through the windows. Panic seized her chest immediately. Last night had been a mistake. A beautiful, perfect, devastating mistake. He'd been caught up in the moment, in the danger and adrenaline, but now, in the cold light of day, he'd regret it. Regret her. She needed to leave before he had to face her, before she saw rejection in those dark eyes that had looked at her like she hung the moon just hours ago. Moving quietly despite her pregnant belly, Michelle gathered her clothes and slipped out of his room. The mansion was eerily quiet at this early hour, and she made it back to her guest room without encountering anyone. She was packing the few belongings she had when the door burst open. Tae-san stood there, shirtless, his hair wild, his expression somewhere between fury and devastation. "What are you doing?" "I'm leaving." She couldn't look at him. "Last night it was a mistake. We both got caught up in the moment, and I don't want to make this awkward for you, so I'll just..." He crossed the room in 3 strides and spun her to face him. "You think last night was a mistake? Wasn't it?" Her voice cracked. "You'll wake up and realize you don't actually want a pregnant woman with nothing to offer. And I can't. I can't watch you realize that. I can't watch you pull away." "Pull away?" He laughed, but it sounded broken. "Michelle, I woke up reaching for you. When you weren't there, I thought I'd dreamed it. I thought maybe you'd never existed at all, and I was finally going insane." His hands cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Last night wasn't a mistake. Last night was the first real thing I've felt in years." "You don't mean that?" "I've killed men for lying to me. Do you think I'd lie about this?" His thumbs brushed away tears she hadn't realized were falling. "You're not leaving. Not now. Not ever. I won't allow it. You can't just keep me prisoner because we slept together." "You're right. I can't." He took a breath and she watched something shift in his expression, from the cold crime lord to someone vulnerable and raw. "But I can ask you to stay. I can tell you that I'm falling in love with you, even though I know it's too fast and too intense and probably too late because you're already planning your escape." His forehead pressed to hers. "I can beg if that's what it takes." "Tae-san." Her hands came up to cover his. "I'm scared." "So am I." The admission seemed to cost him. "I've never cared about anyone the way I care about you, which means I've never had so much to lose." Later that day, Tae-san insisted she rest while he attended to business, but Michelle couldn't sleep. She wandered the mansion, her mind spinning with everything that had happened. She was falling for a criminal, a man who killed people, a man who lived in a world of violence and danger. But he was also the man who checked on her every night, who filled a nursery with supplies for a baby that wasn't his, who looked at her like she was precious beyond measure. She was in the library when she heard voices raised in the foyer. Instinct told her to stay hidden, so she pressed against the bookshelf and listened. "Demanding a meeting," someone was saying in Korean. "They want to discuss terms." "There are no terms." That was Tae-san, his voice cold as death. "They attacked my property. The price is blood. Boss, if we don't negotiate, this becomes an all-out war. The casualties on both sides." "I don't care about casualties." Tae-san's voice dropped to something dangerous. "I care about sending a message. Anyone who threatens what's mine will be destroyed. No exceptions. No mercy." Michelle's blood ran cold. This was the real Tae-san, the crime lord, the killer, the man who built his empire on fear and violence, and she'd let herself fall for him. That evening, tensions in the mansion reached a breaking point. Guards were everywhere, weapons visible, and the air felt electric with impending violence. Tae-san had been in meetings all day, and Michelle had barely seen him. When he finally appeared at dinner, he looked exhausted. They ate in silence, the weight of unspoken words heavy between them. "I heard you today," she said finally, "in the foyer, talking about the war." His jaw tightened. "You shouldn't have been listening. I live here. I can't help but hear things." She set down her fork. "Is it true? You won't negotiate? You're really going to let this escalate into a full-scale war?" "Yes." The single word hung between them. Michelle felt something crack in her chest. Why? Why not just talk to them, find a peaceful solution? "Because in my world, Michelle, showing weakness gets you killed." He met her eyes, his expression hard. "If I negotiate now, every family in Seoul will see it as a sign they can attack me without consequences. My empire will crumble, my people will die. So, instead, other people will die." "Yes." He didn't look away, didn't soften it. "This is who I am. This is the world I live in. I thought you understood that." "I do." Tears burned her eyes. But understanding it and accepting it are different things. The following morning, everything changed. Michelle was reading in her room when she heard glass shatter. Gunshots exploded through the mansion and her heart stopped. She stumbled to her feet, one hand on her belly, terror freezing her in place. The door burst open and Junseo ran in, blood on his shirt. "We need to move you now." "What's happening? Where's Tae-san?" "The Park family found a way through our defenses. Boss is handling it, but he'll kill me if anything happens to you." He grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the door. "We have a safe room in the basement. Come on." They made it 3 steps into the hallway before men in black masks appeared. Junseo shoved Michelle behind him, raising his weapon, but there were too many. She watched in horror as they overpowered him, watched him go down fighting. Then rough hands grabbed her, and everything went dark. Michelle woke in a concrete room that smelled like mildew and blood. Her head throbbed, and her first instinct was to check her belly. The baby kicked, and relief flooded through her. They were both alive. For now. She's awake, someone said in Korean. Call Park Tae-min. The name sent ice through her veins. Park Tae-min, the rival crime lord Tae-San had refused to negotiate with. They'd taken her to force his hand. A man entered the room, tall and thin with cruel eyes. Jang Tae-san's woman, he said in accented English. You're worth more than a warehouse. Much more. I'm not his woman, Michelle tried, her voice shaking. I'm just someone who delivered a package to the wrong house. He doesn't care about me. Tae-min laughed. We've been watching him for weeks. The way he looks at you. He'd burn down all of Seoul to get you back. He crouched in front of her, his smile sharp. So now we wait, and when he comes for you, and he will come, we'll be ready. Meanwhile, across the city, Jang Tae-san was painting the streets red. The moment he'd discovered Michelle was taken, something inside him had snapped. Every man who'd been part of the attack was already dead. Every Park family safe house was burning. And he wouldn't stop until he had her back. Boss, we've tracked her to a warehouse in Gangnam, Junseo said, his arm in a sling but his eyes burning with fury. They're using her as bait. It's a trap. I don't care. Tae-san checked his weapons with methodical precision. Gather everyone. Every soldier, every weapon, everything we have. We're getting her back tonight. If we hit them this hard, there's no going back. This becomes a blood war that could last years. Tae-san's smile was death itself. Good. I want them to remember what happens when they touch what's mine. I want every criminal in this city to know that Michelle Micheal is untouchable, even if I have to kill every last one of them to make the point. That night, Michelle heard the explosions before she saw the fire. The warehouse shook, gunfire erupting like thunder, and her captors ran toward the sound of violence. She pressed herself into the corner of her cell, praying the baby would be okay, praying Tae-san wouldn't get himself killed trying to save her. Then the door exploded inward. Tae-san stood in the doorway like an avenging angel, covered in blood and soot, his eyes wild until they landed on her. Michelle? She burst into tears. You came? Did you think I wouldn't? He crossed the room in seconds, his hands running over her frantically, checking for injuries. Are you hurt? Did they touch you? The baby? We're okay, we're both okay. She threw her arms around his neck and he lifted her like she weighed nothing. You're bleeding. I don't care. His face buried in her neck and she felt him shaking. I thought I lost you. I thought... His voice broke. Never again. You're never leaving my sight again. Outside, the warehouse was a war zone. Bodies littered the ground, fires raged, and Tae-san's men were executing the last of the Park family soldiers. Michelle should have been horrified, should have been disgusted by the violence, but all she felt was safe. The next few days passed in a blur. Tae-san kept her in his bedroom, refusing to let her more than a few feet away. He barely slept, constantly checking on her, his hands drifting to her belly like he needed to feel the baby move to believe they were both real. You need to rest, she told him on the third night, watching him pace at the foot of the bed. You haven't slept in days. I can't. He ran his hands through his hair, looking more disheveled than she'd ever seen him. Every time I close my eyes, I see you in that warehouse. I see what could have happened if I'd been 5 minutes slower. But you weren't. You saved me. She patted the bed beside her. Come here, please. He hesitated, then climbed into bed fully clothed, pulling her against his chest. His heart was racing beneath her ear. I killed 43 men to get to you, he said quietly. I burned down 6 buildings. I tortured Park Tae-min before I put a bullet in his skull. His hand stroked through her hair. Does that frighten you? Yes, she admitted. But what frightens me more is how much I don't care, how grateful I am that you did it, how safe I feel knowing you'd do it again. His arms tightened around her. You're mine, Michelle, in every way that matters, and I will destroy anyone who tries to take you from me. By the end of the month, the Park family had been completely eliminated. Other crime families had sent emissaries offering peace, making it clear they had no intention of challenging Jang Tae-San. His reputation had grown from dangerous to legendary, and the name Michelle Micheal was whispered with the same fear and respect as his own. "They're calling you my queen," Tae-San told her one morning over breakfast. "The woman who brought the king to his knees." "I didn't bring you to your knees. If anything, you brought me to mine. Every night if you'll let me." His smile was wicked and heat flooded her cheeks. "But I'm serious, Michelle. You changed everything. Before you, I was just existing, running an empire, making money, eliminating threats. I wasn't living. And now? Now I have a reason to come home every night. A reason to build something that lasts beyond violence and fear." His hand covered hers on the table. "Now I have you." The following week, Tae-San took her to a private doctor, one of the best obstetricians in Seoul, who he'd paid a fortune to ensure complete discretion. The ultrasound showed a healthy baby girl, growing strong despite everything her mother had been through. "A daughter," Tae-San breathed, staring at the screen with wonder in his eyes. "We're having a daughter." "I'm having a daughter," Michelle corrected gently. "She's not yours, Tae-San. Her biological father is nothing." He turned to face her, his expression fierce. "I don't care about biology. This child will be mine in every way that matters. I'll be there for her first steps, her first words, her first everything. I'll protect her, spoil her, teach her to be strong and brave like her mother." His hand pressed against her belly. "She's already mine. She has been since the moment you walked through my door." Tears streamed down Michelle's face. "You really mean that?" "I've never meant anything more." That evening, Tae-San called his entire organization together. Every soldier, every lieutenant, every person who worked for him. They gathered in the main hall of his mansion, and Michelle stood beside him feeling like she was dreaming. "Some of you have been with me for years," Tae-San began, his voice carrying through the room. "You've seen me build this empire from nothing. You've watched me eliminate threats, expand territory, become one of the most powerful men in Seoul." He paused, his hand finding Michelle's. "But power means nothing without someone to share it with. Wealth means nothing without someone to build a future with." He turned to face her fully, and Michelle's breath caught when he dropped to one knee. "Michelle Micheal, you walked into my life by accident and became my purpose. You're my strength, my weakness, my reason for everything." He pulled out a ring, a stunning diamond that probably cost more than a house. "I know this is fast. I know it's crazy. But I've never been more certain of anything. Marry me. Let me be your husband, your protector, the father of your child, and any others we have. Let me spend the rest of my life worshipping you." The room was silent. Every eye was on them, and Michelle felt like her heart might burst. "You're insane," she whispered. "Completely. This is the worst idea ever." "Probably. I'm going to say yes, anyway." His smile could have lit the whole city. "Thank God." The ring slid onto her finger, and when he stood to kiss her, the entire room erupted in cheers. This was her life now, married to a crime lord, living in a mansion full of danger, carrying a child who would be born into this violent world. And somehow, impossibly, she'd never been happier. 3 months later, Michelle went into labor on a Tuesday afternoon. Tae-San, who'd been in a meeting with Chinese distributors, dropped everything and raced to the private hospital he'd basically purchased to ensure her safety. "I'm here!" He burst into the delivery room, still wearing his suit, his hair wild. "I'm here, baby, I'm not going anywhere." "You're late," she gasped between contractions, but her hand grabbed his and held on like a lifeline. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." He pressed kisses to her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "I'm here now. I've got you." The delivery was long and painful, and Tae-san stayed beside her the entire time, whispering encouragement in Korean and English, letting her crush his hand, looking at her like she was performing a miracle. When their daughter finally entered the world, screaming and perfect, Tae-san cut the umbilical cord with shaking hands. The nurse placed the baby on Michelle's chest, and they both stared in wonder. "She's beautiful," Michelle breathed. "She's perfect." Tae-san's voice was thick with emotion, just like her mother. "What should we name her?" Tae-san thought for a moment, his finger stroking the baby's tiny hand. "Nari. It means lily in Korean, something beautiful that blooms even in darkness." "Nari Michelle Jang." Michelle smiled through her tears. "I love it." Later that night, after the medical team had left and it was just the three of them, Tae-san sat in the chair beside Michelle's bed, holding their daughter like she was made of glass. "I never thought I could have this," he said quietly. "A family. Love. Something pure in all the darkness." "You have it now." Michelle reached out to touch his face. "We both do." "I'm going to give her everything," he promised. "Safety, education, choices. She'll never have to live in the shadows like I did. She'll never have to fight for survival. She'll be spoiled rotten." "Absolutely." His smile was soft, transformed. "And when she's old enough, I'm going to tell her about the day her mother knocked on my door by accident and changed my entire world." 6 months after Nari was born, Jang Tae-san stood in his office overlooking Seoul, his daughter asleep against his chest in a carrier, his wife working on her laptop on the couch. This was his empire now, not just the criminal network, the money, the power. This, his family, his home, his reason for everything. "What are you thinking about?" Michelle asked, looking up from her work. She'd started online classes working toward finishing her degree, and Tae-san funded it all with the same intensity he brought to everything involving her happiness. "How a wrong address changed my life," she smiled. "Best mistake I ever made." It wasn't a mistake. He turned to face her, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch even after all these months. "It was fate. You were always meant to be mine, Michelle. From the moment you were born, the universe was conspiring to bring you to my door. That's very romantic for a crime lord. I'm a husband and father first now. The crime lord part is just my day job." He crossed to the couch, sitting beside her, his free hand finding hers. "I love you. More than power, more than money, more than anything in this world. I love you too." She leaned against his shoulder, their daughter between them, and felt complete. "Even though you're completely insane." "Especially because I'm insane." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "Only an insane man could love you the way you deserve." Outside, Seoul glittered in the darkness, a city that had witnessed their violent beginning, their impossible love story, their transformation from strangers to family. And somewhere in that city, other lives were colliding, other wrong addresses were being delivered to, other fate-driven encounters were waiting to happen. But none of them would ever be quite like the night a pregnant delivery driver knocked on a crime lord's door and accidentally found her happily ever after in the last place anyone would think to look. In the darkness, wrapped in danger, loved by a monster who would burn down the world for her. And she wouldn't have it any other way.